In this video, I want to look at some different ways that we can select some of our different elements on the page in the form. So here we have a number of different elements that we were working with. We have the several input elements. Some were type text, some type number, some type email. Select elements, checkboxes, radio buttons, etc. So here in our CSS, I want to look at some ways that we can select those elements. We can look at, so if I want to make sure that all of my elements are going to be the same width and come out, the same distance, where like this number doesn't, and the select element down here doesn't, then I can select these just by their name. So input, select, and we can we'll set a min width of, how large are these to start with? 173, so we'll set them to 200 pixels for a minimum width. Then we'll save this, see what this looks like. Now we have these elements that are going down to a minimum of 200 pixels. We can see the select elements a little bit different, but you can adjust that as you need to. For now, I'm just going to leave it like that. But we also have these widths. These elements are going to 200 pixels as well. We didn't really want to mess with the width of the checkboxes and the radio buttons. So something we can do there is look at, we could input and then use this attribute selector to select the type. So type equals text, type equals number, and so on. So that we're only selecting certain types of input elements. But I have a lot of elements on here. I have type text, type number, type email, type date, type color. So what if I don't want to type all of those out, but instead I want to know that I'm selecting all of those, but I'm not selecting anything that's a checkbox or a radio button? We can use this not pseudo selector here. So input : not, and then parentheses, and inside of the parentheses, whatever we don't want this to match. So this is going to find all of my input elements that are not whatever I put in here. So not type equals checkbox. And then I also don't want this to match radio buttons, so I'm going to link these together. So not type equals radio. So now I should be matching all input elements that are not checkboxes and not radio buttons, as well as my select elements. So when I save this, we refresh our page. Now my checkboxes are back to where they needed to be, and our radio buttons are back over here where they needed to be, while our other elements are that 200 pixels wide how I wanted them. And we can go from there. You also need to take into account your labels, how you want those to be displayed. All I just styled was that these inputs and select elements. So if I wanted to say style my labels a certain way, maybe give them a font weight of 400, nope, 700. Gotta spell it right or it won't work. Then we can give those labels kind of that bold look, and that's on any of the labels. So you would have to think about how you were going about styling maybe checkbox and radio button labels differently. That's up to you. You can do whatever it is you need to do. That's just selecting those using that not attribute. Something else we can do is set the on text areas. We can set these to maybe not be resized if we choose. So if we choose to not resize, or we don't want the user to resize the text area that we have here, as we can see, we have this grabber in the corner where we can resize this text area. If we don't want them to be able to do that, because it's going to mess with our page, we can use this resize attribute and set it to none. So now when we save this, after adding in this text area, resize none, refresh our page, now we don't get that little handle in the corner. I can't click and resize this. And it kind of, I don't know, it keeps it consistent however we want to set that up, and it's going to keep them looking the same size without them being resized. It's not really that big of a deal. It's kind of up to you. Something else we have right now, when I'm clicking into these elements, they're getting this blue outline. We can style things on focus. So here, I'm going to go with this selector again, but change this. So when these are focused, and select focus, text area focus, we have the outline property. That's what that blue line is coming up around the boxes. We can set that to none. And we can style that however we might need to. But now we can see when I'm clicking into these boxes, we don't have that outline showing up the way that what we do on the text area. We do on the text area still because I have a typo. I didn't type that incorrectly. So now when we refresh this, it's missing from our text area. So we don't have to worry about it. It's really not that big of a deal. It's there by the browser so that you can see what element you are inside of. And it's done whenever you focus into an element. So when we take this out, I'm going to comment out this outline none and then refresh my page. And looking at that when I'm tabbing through it, I can visually see not only where the cursor is in the box, but it's outlined in blue so I can see which one I'm in, where I'm at, what I have selected. That's up to you. If you really don't like it and it bothers you, you can get rid of it. It's not necessary. I don't think it's hurting anything. But again, it comes down to how your page looks, how you need that to look, how you need it to work, and how you need that to lay out.